Taleb has a rule: never give financial advice, not casually, not professionally, not even if you're qualified. His reasoning has nothing to do with politeness, modesty, or legal risk. It has everything to do with accountability. You should not tell people what to do with their money, unless you will suffer if they suffer losses from it. No incentives, no theories, no credentials will change this. If you're not exposed to the outcome of the advice that you give, you're not qualified to speak, in his view. This rule runs directly against most of the finance world. Advice flows practically non-stop from talking heads, portfolio managers, TikTok influencers, economists, analysts, planners, and YouTube financial experts. Very few of them are actually exposed to the consequences of their words. Taleb doesn't see this as a harmless detail. He sees this as moral failure. Skin in the game is Taleb's foundation. No principle matters more in his work, whether he's talking about risk, ethics, legacy, fragility, systems, survival, or even finance. It's brutally simple. You must not benefit from a system unless you're also exposed to its risk. If your advice can hurt others but not you, it's not just bad advice, it's unethical. He traces this principle back to Hammurabi's Code of 1754 BC. If a builder constructed a house and it collapsed and killed the owner's son, the builder's own son will be put to death. It's harsh, of course, but it forces skin in the game. If your work might get someone killed or ruined financially, you must build your portfolio for them carefully. If your decision can destroy lives, which also matters in financial terms, you must also bear the risk as well. The modern world, of course, has mostly abandoned this logic. Financial advisors can be wrong repeatedly, but yet still collect consulting or even portfolio or service fees. Analysts make forecasts that every day that never come true and still keep their jobs. Fund managers blow up portfolios while still keeping their year-end bonuses. These are incentive structures without consequence. They violate, in his rule, Hammurabi's Code. Taleb doesn't argue that people shouldn't give advice. He argues that people shouldn't be allowed to give advice unless they're exposed to the downside. He applies this same rule to himself. He does not give stock picks, trading signals, or portfolio allocations, ever. He makes decisions for himself with his own capital. If he's wrong, he loses. If he's right, he wins, alone. No one else carries the burden of his own actions, and no one else takes the hit when he loses. This is, in his view, integrity applied to finance. Taleb has a second filter: can the advice be replicated by others? Most financial advice fails this immediately. Here's why. Advice is very context dependent. A trade might make sense for one person but be catastrophic to another. A hedge might work in one portfolio and destroy another. Even good advice, or generally speaking universally good advice, is meaningless if it can't be acted on effectively by the person receiving it. You might tell someone to buy a stock, but do they have the same risk tolerance as you? Do they have the same time horizon as you? Do they have the same liquidity needs? Do they have the same tax exposure, especially if you are going against different tax jurisdictions? Do they have the same behavioral or patience or behavioral discipline? Or do they have the same downside capacity as you? No investor is the same. And to these questions, the answers would definitely be different at least once, which means that most advice is hollow anyway. It's just noise dressed up as insight. Taleb calls this non-transferable knowledge. It might work for you, but it doesn't scale for you. And if it doesn't scale, it's not advice, it's just noise. This is a major problem in professional finance, particularly in consulting. Traders give seminars on strategies that worked for them once. Economists publish papers that can't be applied to the real world. Hedge fund managers talk about trades they made without explaining the entire structure of leverage, margin, liquidity, or execution risk, or how it cannot apply to you. That's not teaching. To Taleb, that's performance. In his view, if it cannot be replicated, it cannot be taught. If it cannot be taught, it cannot be shared as advice, and if so, the world is full of people selling unreplicable advice and calling it wisdom. He doesn't care about previous trades or what other people did. He cares about whether a strategy can be used again and whether it can work for him. Under pressure, in a different cycle, with other people's money, and with transparency. And even then, only if you're exposed to the risk as well. Taleb's ethical foundation comes from negative ethics. He prefers what he calls the silver rule over the golden rule. The golden rule, particularly in ancient law, is do unto others as you have them do unto you. Silver rule is basically the inverse of that, but it also makes sense as well. In fact, it makes more sense in Taleb's view. Do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you. The golden rule assumes that you know what's good for others. Taleb thinks that's arrogant. The silver rule is stricter. It recognizes limitations in yourself and it demands restraint in giving financial advice. So basically, in finance, the silver rule translates into this: if you wouldn't want others giving you advice that could bankrupt you, don't give advice that could bankrupt others. It's simple. But here's the catch. Even if the advice is well-meaning, even if it's backed by research, even if it has worked in the past, you really don't know how it will play out in 2025 or whenever you give the advice. Nobody does, because that assumes that the market is predictable, which it isn't. And unless you're the person holding the downside, you don't carry the burden about what's wrong. This is why Taleb has contempt for risk professionals who optimize from spreadsheets. Their models can be elegant, their theories might be airtight on paper, but if they're not exposed to real-world consequences, they are dangerous to the clients. In his words, never ask a barber if you need a haircut. That's not a joke, that's reality. You ask the barber or you ask the waiter, is this food good or is this haircut nice? Because you want their opinion and their downside. So this is a hard ethical stance on finance and giving advice on finance and why you should not give it. In Taleb's world, if you win and you're not exposed, that's unethical. If you lose and other people pay, that's also unethical. But if you give advice without consequences, you are dangerous to your clients.